What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. I want to tell you what I've been up to for the last month or so. I was actually walking down the street one day and I saw this really cool festival happening outside. A bunch of lowriders, which is not normal in New York City, theoretically. It's something you see in the West Coast. I didn't have my camera on me, but it was in my neighborhood. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go home, get my camera, come back and do some portraits. When I got home, I just wanted to sit on the couch and do nothing. And I did that for about an hour and a half. And then I really kind of thought to myself, am I going to waste this opportunity to kind of see something interesting in New York City, especially that close to my own neighborhood? And I decided, you know what, I can't waste that opportunity. So I mustered up the energy, grabbed my camera, grabbed two cameras actually, got the Yashica 124 Mat, and also my Canon P with some black and white film, and I hit the streets. And I'm really, really happy that I did, because I almost wasted that fantastic opportunity that I'm sure that any of you would have loved to have had. So I hit the street festival, and it was actually for a signing. There was an autograph signing happening for some famous Chicano actor, and it brought out a lot of Mexican people from New York City. And it was really cool. A lot of lowriders in the streets. And of course, I started talking to people, and that's where I really got some enjoyment out of the festival, because I got to hear some of the stories, learn about the cars themselves, learn about the people that own the cars and work on them themselves. And then, of course, you know, it was a family thing. The people who own the cars were there, their kids were there, their spouses. Just a really positive environment, which is something that, you know, isn't always obvious given what the media puts out there and what you might have seen in other places. Some of these things are expected to be, you know, part criminal, part dangerous, blah, blah, blah. Wasn't like that whatsoever. It was actually pretty cool. So here's my favorite portrait of the day. This is the one with the little kid and his dad. I purposefully cropped out his dad. I wanted the focus to be on his kid, but I wanted the dad's kind of lower body and his clothes to be showing, to really tie it up all together and to make sure that you knew that we were talking about Chicano culture here, because you can tell by the dad's pants and his sneakers, and then also, of course, the beer that he's holding kind of sets the vibe. And then you got this kid right here who's very innocent, staring at the camera. Very hard shot to get, because he would not look at me, or at least he wouldn't look directly into the camera. I think I took 4 shots here, or 3, I'm not sure how many. And this is the best one out of all of them. I wish he was looking straight at the camera, but you know, his little kind of confused look actually adds to the innocence that his image portrays. So I really, really love that photo. Here's a couple more of the images. Overall, just really loved the experience that was here, and the people were so welcoming. Once I started talking to people, immediately they were really excited that I actually cared what they had to say. And that's a big lesson for you, anybody out there who does street portraits. Listen to people, ask them questions, really get their feedback and make them feel like they're getting something out of the interaction too. That goes an extremely long way to gaining someone's trust and to creating some really nice photography. This is also the first time that I brought 2 cameras with me to do street portraiture. And by 2 cameras, I mean one medium format and one 35mm. And I actually really love what I got with 35mm. Let's check it out. The combination of 120 and 35 is really interesting, because I can continue to do my street portraiture the slow way that I like to do with my 120 cameras and really kind of have a moment with the person. But then if I want to do a bit more doc style, more journalistic style of photography, I can just use my 35mm and make the rounds and just kind of capture candids, move around a bit faster, take shots a bit faster. You know, rangefinder focusing is so much faster than what I do on the 120 cameras. And then if I want to take portraits with that camera as well, I can. It's not my preferred choice, let's say, between the two, but it adds a whole different kind of character to the portrait session overall. So it's really cool to kind of dual wield. I feel like I'm playing Halo, you know, you got your big gun and then your little gun. That's kind of the setup that I'm going for. So let's fast forward to last weekend, which was another day that I went out. This time there was no special event or anything like that. I was just gonna hit the streets and see what I encountered. It's a bit of a slow day, but again, I brought 2 cameras. I was dual wielding with my Yashica and then with my Canon P. And I just did a kind of very easy stroll around New York City, and I came across these characters. This right here is actually my favorite set of the entire day, because I was able to use both the 120 camera and the Canon P to really bring that together and kind of capture someone holistically. This guy feeding the pigeons, you know, most people just kind of looked at him from afar. I actually got close and started chatting with him, and he was kind of spewing a bit of nonsense, but he wasn't mean, he wasn't kind of off-putting in any way. He was just kind of rambling on his own. And I just listened and I smiled, and you know, it was all good. The portrait that I took from far away, that was my initial photo before I had interacted with him. I didn't really enjoy that. You know, you can see it right here. It's nothing special. Not really an interesting moment at all. But I really liked what I got with the 35mm camera. Once I started chatting with him and I got way closer to him, I just kind of had the Canon P in my hand and would take a couple shots kind of intermittently here and there. He didn't seem to mind at all. And after I shot the first one and realized that he didn't really care, I was like, all right, let me keep shooting a few photos. And this is my favorite shot in here. I don't know if I'm 100% happy with the composition, but I think the details here are showing something more interesting to the scene than just the guy's face and the fact that there's pigeons. You know, he's got his beer, you see the birds here, you kind of put that together and you wonder, who is this guy? You know, why is he drinking at, 12 o'clock in the afternoon and feeding pigeons? But, you know, that's how it is. I think that's how you make kind of an interesting, well-rounded story of a subject that you're photographing. I took a bunch of other photos. Again, nothing that I think is too amazing, but this photo right here was pretty interesting. I don't think I nailed it, and I also really don't like that you can see another car behind the big truck here. But this kid right here was with his dad washing this big monster truck van that they converted themselves. The dad obviously is the one that did all the work, but the kid is helping him, and he was washing the car, detailing the wheels and all that kind of stuff. And I asked the dad, hey, can I photograph your kid on top of one of these tires? And he said, of course, get after it. So I had the kid jump up on there and I took two photos. I've got one of him standing and one of him kind of squatting. I think I like the squatting photo a lot more, but ultimately the photo doesn't have the depth that I wanted. And I think it's just kind of a hard scene to capture because, you know, the truck dominates the scene, but then right behind the truck, there's another car to kind of fill in some of the open areas. So a bit of an awkward look in my head at least, but I think it was interesting. And I really liked the position and kind of the perspective that I got with this kid on the wheel. It really gives you some sense of scale to the photo. And then you also wonder, like, you know, why is this kid sitting on top of this giant wheel on a big monster truck in New York City? That's just kind of how it goes. The last thing I was up to this month is, of course, the solar eclipse. I'm not an astrophotographer or anything like that. I focus nowadays on portraits, but I did used to do a lot of landscape and cityscape back in the day. So my goal with the eclipse was actually to capture the partial eclipse that we got in New York City. I think it was a 90% partial eclipse, and kind of contextualize that and frame it up with one of the bridges here in New York City. My calculations were telling me that the sun was going to be low enough in the sky to kind of get all of that together, but ultimately I was wrong. During the time of the eclipse, the sun was still higher than 45 degrees in the sky, and therefore it was really hard to kind of fit it all in. Not to mention, a partial eclipse doesn't really block out the sun entirely enough to make it dark outside of any kind. Got a little bit darker as if it was kind of like cloudy, but ultimately it was super bright. So exposing for the sun to catch the partial eclipse and whatever was in the foreground was basically impossible. I haven't seen the photos yet. I gotta go pick up the rolls right after recording this video, but you and I are gonna see them together right now. Let me know what you think. How was that? Like I said, I don't know what they look like right now, but I'm really curious to see. Tell me in the comments. I'm gonna leave my opinion down below so you can see what I think. But, you know, shooting the eclipse was an interesting thing. I didn't want to just photograph the eclipse dead on, because that's what everybody was doing pretty much. And I also wasn't interested in photographing people watching the eclipse. I knew a lot of people were going to be doing that already, so it wasn't my goal either. I kind of went in my own different direction, but ultimately my assumption is that I failed. You know, you be the judge. All right, y'all, thanks for watching. I'm going to make a lot more YouTube videos now that I have a bit more time, and I'm hoping to keep you up to date with the things that I'm working on and doing out there. All right, y'all, to the next video. I'm out.